Hello everyone, welcome to Parwaaz video series on planning the next normal. My name is Jawad Khan and I'm the CEO of PSDF and the country head of Parwaaz, the national accelerator on closing the skills gap in Pakistan, set up in partnership with the World Economic Forum. Our guest today is Mr. Monis Rahman, the founder and CEO of Rozee.pk, and he will share his perspective on the business outlook of the ICT industry and the future of jobs. Welcome to the Parwaaz video series, Monis.
Well, thank you so much, Jawad. It's great to be here.
Very good. So let's get started. COVID-19 has had a devastating impact on the businesses around the world. How has it impacted your industry in general and your business particularly?
So, there are a wide array of answers embedded in there. Why don't I start off by talking about the ICT industry in specific, and then we can transition the conversation to jobs, online hiring. ICT has been one of the most resilient industries during this epidemic because of social norms, keeping distance between people, the way the COVID-19 infects people. It's known that the infection happens people to people when people are close to each other in proximity. And ICT has basically taken the lead in ensuring that businesses and social interactions continue. Everyone has moved to Zoom platforms to do calls. Work from home is now the new normal. And people are using ICT technologies to stay connected to work. And the results have been pretty good in very adverse environment. Many organizations are reporting that work from home has given them nearly as much productivity as working from the office, and startups are questioning whether they need an office at all. This is a dramatic shift in mindsets. At the same time, we're finding in our country, in Pakistan specifically, of all of the industries that have been impacted, ICT has been impacted the least because there's a demand for outsourced work. People aren't working from their offices as much. Outsourced work means essentially work from home or from a remote location, which is now becoming much more accepted from a business perspective. So we've seen actually a pretty good spike in outsourcing work, where more and more companies are experimenting outsourcing to new locations. And, Pakistan is one of the most attractive places to outsource because of the cost of engineering and software engineers in the country. And a lot of people were hesitating, experimenting with us because traditionally we have a brand perception issue. People don't know the country like the people who live here. And in these adverse times, people are more accepting of risk. So we've seen a lot more outsourcing happen. Payments, again, I'll classify that under ICT. Online kind of payments through mobile platforms have seen 300-400% growth in users. And that's again because people don't want to physically have to go someplace and pay, or even handle money, which has the paper, like physical aspect to it, where there could be a virus on the paper itself. So ICT, I think, has been the hero during the last 6 months. There's been a good spike and boom. That's not to say everything is great, but relatively speaking, ICT has been the least affected and probably has the most to gain in the long term, as social acceptance has been created for a lot of the technologies that are very conducive to growth in ICT in Pakistan. That being said, I'm going to switch hats a bit and talk to you about jobs and hiring. We're doing a study right now with the World Bank in terms of the impact of COVID on jobs, and we've analyzed a lot of our data. Some early findings is exactly what I mentioned, that among the jobs that are being advertised, employers who are hiring, the majority of those come from the ICT sector. So ICT has found this to be a great opportunity to hire because a lot of organizations are slowing down. There have been a lot of layoffs. There's a lot of unemployment. Hiring freezes, of course, across most organizations. It's also harder to hire when you're working from home because the new employee needs to be interviewed. Yes, you can do that online. At some point, you want to meet the person. Once the person onboards, it's important to assimilate them into the work environment. So you need other individuals nearby to train them, which is harder to do online. I'm sure it's going to happen. So hiring has slowed down overall dramatically. ICT has been the least impacted, and we're seeing this basically in the numbers. Another trend that we're seeing related to ICT, which is probably not unexpected, but it's a very, very good surprise because it's accelerated. We have in this country, the third or fourth largest group of freelancers worldwide who service the world industries. And what we've seen now is that more and more local companies are now demanding contractual hires, freelance hires, because one, they're squeezed from the budget end where they're seeing a decline in their earnings and revenue where they can't afford a full-time headcount. And two, they need quick skills. And there are a lot of people who are on the job market who have a lot of fantastic skills but have recently lost their jobs. So local industries are demanding freelancers and consultants for graphics design, for video editing, for software programming. And this is fantastic because we have that skill set available in the country, but it's been mainly facing outwards for international projects. And we've got a large local industry where I think it's about time that the local freelancers explored opportunities within the country. And I sincerely believe that for many of those people who've lost jobs, who've moved to freelancing, they're going to find that they're making more money as freelancers than they used to make as full-time employees. So there's a shift to freelancing globally, I think. There's also a shift to online learning, which comes with freelancing as people are, out of the job market and recently laid off and trying to get back in. They're exploring, well, how do I reinvent myself? Online education has also seen a very good spike. And there's much more need for online education, particularly localized online education for a lot of the skills that we can find on global platforms like Udacity and Udemy or Coursera.
Wonderful. So thank you so much. You've also touched upon my next question, which was about the future of employment and jobs in the industry. And you shared with us the fact that the new opportunities are in the ICT industry are around freelancing and e-lancing. Could you very specifically identify some roles that are still very important and the industry is still hiring for?
I think most software technology roles are still very much in high demand. Software programmers are being hired out of existing organizations because there's a demand, a surge in outsourcing projects that are paying in dollars and kind of foreign exchange. And so these small outsourcing firms are able to pay good salaries at a time where the local industries hit. So a software engineer who is laid off today, generally speaking, doesn't have much to worry about. They're very likely that they'll get picked up at a premium of their salary. And by software engineer, I'm talking about people with web design skills, with Android programming, with PHP, with Python, with kind of backend, iOS. These skills are in very hot demand. BI skills are increasingly important. They were important in the past. They are still important. There are a lot of opportunistic hires going on right now where people were traditionally hard to find, particularly in artificial intelligence, are now slightly more accessible. And so a lot of companies are hiring just because they can. They've got the budgets and because people are more available. So in my mind, the future of work is definitely moving more towards this freelance economy. And I think there's a lot to be gained by both organizations as well as individuals. And organizations gain because they don't have to spend as much money to get the jobs done. There's recently an organization that that hires from Rozee that needed graphics help. So they need a designer in the graphics space.
Okay. Monis, what is sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm okay. Is my internet okay? Do you hear me? Okay. Yeah. So I was saying they needed a graphics artist for a 2-week project. So instead of hiring a full-time employee, which they would have considered doing, they chose to freelance this opportunity. And very quickly, we were able to help them find a great individual who completed the project. And the amount he charged for the project for 2 weeks was more than he charges for a month as an employee of a company in his salary. So he made more money.
So, given the the current state of the ICT industry, what do you think is the business outlook over the next 12 to 18 months? Were there any plans that got jeopardized because of the pandemic? And are there some new plans that have come up because of what has happened during the pandemic?
Absolutely. I think everybody's reinventing themselves. Whoever had a brick and mortar component to their business found increasing friction due to that, because of lockdowns and because of people's hesitation to meet in person. A lot of sales engagements have been delayed because companies are in lockdown and they just don't want to meet you in person. And they're still struggling to get used to doing a sophisticated sales call online and closing a deal online. So many organizations have reinvented how they're approaching the world, including online organizations and ICT organizations, who would sell to SMEs, for example, and they'd have to go SME to SME to meet them. All of that has slowed down. So companies are now reinventing themselves and finding a way to do onboarding completely online through a digital channel. So no face-to-face meeting is required in order to avail the service. And this comes back to your previous question, Jawad, where you asked what skills are in demand. Well, e-commerce has seen a huge spike in demand. Everybody wants to do e-commerce. If you had an offline store, if you had a business from home, no matter what your business is, right now you're thinking, I need to beef up my e-commerce strategy. So individuals involved in e-commerce, skill sets involved in e-commerce have seen a spike. This, of course, includes the software engineers I spoke about previously. It also includes marketers online, social media marketers, people who do Google SEM, Google SEO, Instagram, Snapchat, whoever can acquire users online, whoever can communicate my brand proposition online. These are really, really hot skills in these times. That coupled with payments, because when you talk about e-commerce, payments is a huge piece of that. And there's a lot of innovation happening by ICT organizations who are spearheading the payment space and making it easier and easier for organizations to let their clients pay them, ranging from schools to educational institutions to any organization that needs to collect fees.
So one is, given the fact that the businesses have been witnessing shrinking revenues and profits, and work from home has become a standard practice for most of the businesses, how have you been catering to the learning and development needs of your workforce?
It's a challenge, Jawad. The good news is for ICT education, there are fantastic, highly affordable courses available on global platforms like Udemy and Udacity and Coursera. And, these courses are like $12 for a course in learning Adobe Premiere to edit videos, So you can get a world-class education on becoming a video editor. It's really not that hard. Spend 2 weeks on a course like this, and you can now hit the job market and improve your skills. But the problem is that although these are available outside of the country, they're still not super accessible to people inside the country. Because although we do speak English, our English isn't that good. And when you hear an American instructor speaking in slang and speaking fast, the comprehension slows down and you can't relate to it as much. It's harder to understand. the payment options of these international platforms are often not accessible by the local individuals who want to acquire those skills. So it's again a frictionful experience going to online education platforms, although they've been very successful. The need of the hour is creating quality, localized online content to upskill the workforce. And I mean deeper skills than, interviewing skills, for example, or, what is HTML? It's great introductory courses that I think some initiatives have started embarking on, but you can't really make a living with that knowledge. You're going to make a living by learning how to program in JavaScript or learning a software graphics application like a Photoshop or a Premiere for editing your videos, or software for doing analytics, So those are the skills that I think we need. And I think it's high time we do it locally. I think it's a fantastic opportunity and it's a fantastic need of the market.
So once COVID-19 is behind us and life returns to normal, do you think online learning and development is going to become a permanent feature of the ICT industry?
Absolutely it will. It was already a very prevalent means for upskilling in most areas of the world, and we saw it happening as well here in Pakistan, not to the same extent as we have seen overseas. But online education, has gripped us in a way that we would never expect, and I was talking about social acceptance. It's become the new norm. If any of you have kids, all of us who have kids know this. We are seeing our kids online. All of their learning is happening online through Google Classrooms or whatever software the school is using. But that's how we're now starting to educate our kids. And our kids have gotten great at this. They've learned to click the buttons, how to view the homework, how to start the video, how to mute themselves. So this is a skill set that's being acquired by 8, 9-year-olds very quickly. And we've accepted it. And as adults, we've also accepted conducting meetings online. And in fact, the conversation we're having right now, we're having online. And because of that, the acceptance of this online medium for communicating and education has just grown by leaps and bounds. Therefore, this online education for upskilling is poised to see dramatic growth with social acceptance, awareness, and know-how. People now know how to navigate these online platforms.
And during the COVID-19, a lot of the businesses had to innovate really, really fast to ensure business continuity. What are those 2 or 3 innovations that you think are going to stay permanently and become a permanent part of your business and operating model?
One is online payments and collections. I think this is something that we're seeing e-commerce. In my local store in the market here, there is a shawarma stand, which there isn't even a shop. It's like an outdoor stand of the market. These guys are saying, sir, how can you help me sell online? I've got a customer base in this area, but they don't want to come here. I want to drop off my items to them. How can I sell online? This is a shawarma stand. And he said, I'm going to go and buy a smartphone because if that's what I need to do this, I'll do it. So now you're seeing people at a level of society who are less educated, less advanced from a technological perspective, but do have access to smartphones and internet, going all the way to very sophisticated organizations who just didn't invest enough in online e-commerce. Every school is now asking for solutions for parents to pay their fee bills online, because going to the bank branch, having slips stamped and that whole painful process, parents aren't paying that way, and the payments are now late, and schools are having a hard time managing their cash flows. So out of necessity, this online payments ecosystem has suddenly exploded. And once businesses transition to this, there's no looking back, because the advantages are tremendous, and we've seen this globally. So this was a really good kickstart to a behavioral change that I think was badly needed in the country.
Fantastic. You gave us a very optimistic view of the future of jobs in the ICT industry. Is there a set of collective actions that the industry needs to take to make sure that this future of jobs in the ICT industry becomes a reality?
I think I have painted an optimistic picture because we're talking about the significant events that have happened in the industry, and the significant deviations or changes have largely been this behavioral inflection point, which ICT is well equipped to handle. However, there have been some very dramatic stories of people losing jobs and not being able to find new jobs even within the industry. And I just want to caution that, it's not all rosy. And if you look at individuals who've been hit really hard, they've been individuals who haven't upskilled, who have traditional skills, but haven't acquired the new skills. And there are plenty of new skills that are easy to access. There was a user interface course that I had some people take. It was a 5-day course, but it turned an individual who had no knowledge of user interface to become fairly good at doing this. Now, these people who've upskilled have found themselves again in the job market. People who've not upskilled are going to face very tough challenges.
What is the youth right now, as they plan their careers ahead, as they are graduating from colleges and universities, as they are switching jobs, looking for new jobs? These are very despondent and uncertain times for them. What is that one positive message that you want to leave them with?
So, it's been very difficult for graduating students. We've robbed them of their graduations, per se, where their whole family's around them and they clap as they get a degree and, a diploma after a lot of hard work. It's a very emotional time. And we've robbed them of the opportunity of, exploring the career options through these job fairs or organizations who are on campus, through these interviews, through networking events. So we've made it very hard for them. We've robbed them of the career advice they get through these interactions around the time they're graduating, both from friends and families and individuals in the industry. So I can certainly imagine that the graduates 2020 are very despondent right now. And I think the message is that during these times of dramatic behavior change, this inflection point we're going through, they are the best equipped to transition it. As we get older, we become less open to change, less able to change ourselves and the way we work and our processes and learn new skills. And these young kids who are graduating now have that flexibility, have that training, have that ability to just absorb new things. So as we stabilize towards a new normal, these are the kids we're going to want to bring in to help navigate this change, because our older workforce members may not be as resilient to adopting it. That being said, I think these are also the people who can seize the new age way of enhancing their career. These are the people who've grown up on computers and internet and mobile phones. And so for them to upskill through online courses is much easier than somebody who's 50, 60 years old right now and trying to find a way to acquire new skills and struggling with this new medium. So they should embrace this. Online hiring is also probably the most accessible way of finding career opportunities, which the youth is much more aware of and using. So there's some tools that are becoming mainstream that the younger graduates now have an advantage over. And I would say particularly their ability to rapidly upskill. You can take a 2-week course and learn JavaScript even if you were an economics major. You can do that today You don't have to be a computer science major that's worked 4 years. So as our graduates look at the opportunities in the job market through job advertisements, through what organizations are doing, and they align themselves with short-term courses that acquire those skills, coupled with how agile they are naturally as natives to this online ecosystem, I think they will have an advantage. But it's going to be tough, and they're going to have a lot of self-initiative in order to do this.
Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us, Monis. It was a pleasure. Stay well.
My pleasure,
stay safe.
Thank you very much. All the best.